So welcome everybody to our session on the ACT, College and Career Readiness with the ACT. I'd like to introduce our speaker for the day, Ms. Jessica, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Eilerson?
You got it. Very nice.
Oh, okay. With ACT Education. She's gonna just give us a lot of great information on the ACT and some basics about it, and also, how to use it for college and career preparedness. So if there are any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, ask them as they come up, or utilize the text function, the text box. I'll be helping to monitor the text box or the chat just to make sure we catch all the questions. And then really important, just to make sure that all of the attendees here with us to go ahead and answer the end of session survey. That is how we are going to track our attendance and how we get any feedback from our session today. So make sure you all complete that and hit submit just to make sure that you get credit for attending today. So with that, I will pass it off, and please give Ms. Jessica your attention. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anita. Yeah, hi, everybody. It's really awesome to be able to get to present to you guys today. My voice is a little crazy because I am actually just recovering from a bout of laryngitis, which was weird. So I sound a little goofy, but I'm really excited to be able to present to students. Oftentimes I'm presenting to schools and districts, so this is an extra special treat for me. So I am going to pause probably about every 15 or 20 minutes or so to see if you guys have any questions. So feel free to either raise your hand or chime in when it's time to pause for questions. So I'm going to talk to you guys about some college and career readiness with ACT today. And I've got a little slide deck that I'm going to show you, and hopefully you can see that well. Anita, could you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, your screen is perfect.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so as Anita mentioned, my name is Jessica Eilerson, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am a former math teacher, so I taught math for several years at the high school level. I am also have been a data analyst and a statewide assessment director, so I have a lot of experience. But what I want to share with you is I'm the first person in my family to graduate from high school and from college and also from graduate school. So I am a first generation high school college graduate, and I did not have a lot of opportunities growing up to go to fancy colleges, but using something like the ACT to demonstrate where some of my strengths and weaknesses are, because I was pretty smart, really worked out well for me. And education has really opened every door in my life. So I am passionate and committed to working in education, and I love getting a chance to work with the ACT. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the ACT is. We've heard this word maybe before, benchmark, and so we're going to talk about what a benchmark is. We're going to look at when you're going to use this, how you can prepare, when you can take the test, a couple updates, and some questions at the very end. So your future is wide open. We know that the last couple of years have just been crazy. We know that there have been some uninterrupted or some interrupted learning. We know that there has been a little bit of what people are referring to as learning loss, because in the shuffle of trying to figure out exactly how to have school during a global pandemic, some models have gone to online instruction. Some did kind of a hybrid where you attended classes some of the time and the rest of the time it was online. But what we know is that your future is not going to be impacted by the pandemic in the sense that the trajectory of your career and what you choose to do matters now more than ever. And so you're going to have a unique opportunity to be able to do some of this online learning and make some decisions about your future in a global economy. And so we want to just talk about ways that you can kind of put your best foot forward as you think about what you want to do once you graduate from high school. And so why take the ACT? There are a few options. You might have heard that some colleges are going what's called test optional. And that basically means that having an ACT or SAT score isn't required for admission. But I just want to share with you some of the value of taking the ACT test And it's not really all about getting that 36, that best score possible. It's not all about only going to college or using your ACT score for college. There's a lot that comes with taking the ACT test, and things like the career interest inventory, where you can kind of take a look at what your interests are and where your skills lie and what the alignment is between those two. So obviously you can use the ACT to gain admittance to 2 and 4 year colleges across the entire United States and some outside of the country. You can use your ACT score to qualify for scholarships because lots of colleges require these for merit-based awards. So we don't want you to miss out on any money at all. I got through my undergraduate education on scholarship, and that was merit-based and really essential for my ability to attend college. You can also do the college and career planning section that I mentioned, the career interest inventory. We're the only one that has that. And really can kind of ACT can give you a chance to shine. So if you don't have, say, for instance, a lot of extracurricular stuff on your resume or in your college application, the ACT really gives you a chance to show what you're capable of and where your strengths are academically as well. And then we're also going to talk about a super score. So you might have heard of a super score before, but when you take the ACT more than once, you can average your best section scores and calculate a super score. So that's really gives you a chance to kind of demonstrate how well you did, even if you didn't take all of the tests on one day and do your best on all of those scores. So say, for instance, you took the test in April and then you took it again in June. And in April, you did the best on the math, but in June, you did best on reading. Well, you can average up those scores and figure out what your super score is. And so I have a little activity that we'll do here in just a little bit. So as I mentioned, the ACT is accepted by every 2 and 4 year college in the United States. Scholarship and merit-based aid opportunities rely on scores for the ACT, and you can even get college credit based on what those scores are. So the question really is, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to do once you graduate from high school? What are you learning? The ACT covers a lot of what you're learning in school. So it's what's called a curriculum-based assessment. And that means it's not measuring aptitude. Don't have to be naturally good at anything to demonstrate what your strengths are. It's going to measure exactly what you've been learning in your classes. It has the career interest inventory, and the ACT also does cover science. So that's unique. Really trying to figure out what your strengths are, what your academic abilities are really going to be of value to you as you prepare for post-secondary success. And so the ACT will give you a chance to see, okay, how are your English scores? How's your math? Where are you in relationship or regard to other students? Oh, quiet dogs. Got a couple dogs here. And so in addition to that, we're going to cover what is covered in the ACT. So we've got English, math, reading, science, and writing. So those are all going to be covered when you take the ACT. Now the writing is optional, so you don't necessarily have to take that if you don't want to. The English test is approximately 75 questions, which is about 45 minutes. The math has 60 questions, which is 60 minutes. Reading has 40 questions. Science has 40 questions. And as I mentioned, the writing component is optional, but it takes about 40 minutes to test. So all in all, it's between 3.5 and 4 hours, and that doesn't include breaks. Okay, so we're going to talk about ACT standards and benchmarks. So maybe you've heard that there are benchmarks for the ACT, and maybe you wonder what that means. We at ACT want you to understand that the goal is not to get that 36. Yes, that would be great for every student to get the best possible score on the ACT if possible. But what we really want is for you to reach the benchmark score. The benchmark is kind of where it's really at. That's what you really want to shoot for. And so what is a benchmark? Well, the benchmarks are these determined cut scores. So an 18 for English, 22 for math, 22 for reading, 23 for science, 20 for English language arts, and 26 for STEM. And STEM is an acronym for science, technology. Oh, sorry, my daughter, my 3-year-old is at home with me today. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So these cut scores basically determine how likely you are to be successful your first year in college. So it's really a measurement or a target that's going to let us know, okay, if you reach these scores, you're pretty likely to do well that first year in college, because what we don't want is for you to have to retake any classes. We don't want you to have to go into any non-credit bearing classes, because then you have to pay extra to take those first year classes and you're not going to get any credit for them. And really, we just want to determine, please quiet. Sorry. We just want to determine whether or not you're going to be successful as you enter in that first year. And that's what we really want. ACT's mission is to help students have education and workplace success. And so when we're looking at the benchmarks, we can determine on your score for the ACT whether or not you're headed on the right path. So students who meet the benchmark on the ACT have a 50% chance of earning a B or better, and approximately a 75% chance of getting a C or better in those entry-level college courses. And again, we want to point out that's credit-bearing courses, because those are the ones that you're going to need for that degree, and those are the ones that you're paying for, but you don't want to have to pay for extra courses. Just a second. So if you're planning on going to college, I pulled up some of the requirements for some of the local state universities in New Mexico. So if you're applying to New Mexico State University as a first-time freshman, they're looking for an ACT composite score of 21. Now you'll see the note at the very bottom that says, official ACT or SAT scores are not required for admission or scholarship eligibility for 2021. However, it is beneficial for you to have them on file with them for math and English placement when you enroll. So this is one of those instances where this is not going to be a requirement for New Mexico State University, but it really can benefit you to take that. How about University of New Mexico? Standardized scores are not required to be considered for admission, but may be helpful in some cases. They say, if you choose to provide scores, they should be sent from the testing service, so that's from us, but scores reported on your high school transcript will be accepted. So just want to share with you that there are some different requirements that happen for each of the universities. How about Central New Mexico Community College? You will need to have one of the following: high school diploma with a cumulative GPA of 2.5 or higher, and an ACT or SAT score. So it doesn't indicate what your score needs to be. But again, remember, we want to try to make that benchmark score so that you can determine whether or not you're ready for that first year of college without having to retake any classes or start in any remedial courses. Okay, so before we talk about preparation, I am going, oops, let's go back. I am going to hold here for just a moment to see if anybody happens to have any questions, and you're welcome to take yourself off mute and jump in and let me know if you happen to have any questions. You can also enter into the chat box. If you don't want to speak up and you'd rather just type in your question, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions from the question box. Okay, I'll pause at the end of the presentation if you have any questions about ACT or college and career readiness then. So how can you get best prepared for the ACT? My first slide here indicates maybe not what what you want to do. This is the wrong way to prepare for your ACT assessment. Um, there was a rumor going around for a really long time that if you didn't know what the answer was on a multiple choice test, that you should guess C. And I just want to share with you that that has changed. So there are 5 options, A, B, C, D, or E, and it's not a great test taking strategy to just pick C if you don't know. The nice thing about the ACT though is you will not be penalized for guessing. So they're only going to score the ones that you got right, and they're not going to look at the ones that you got wrong. So let's take a look at what you can do. There are lots of free resources. I'm going to share some with you today, and some that you can also pay for if you're interested. So you can take a full sample test on myact.org, and we're going to go over that in just one moment. And you can also utilize the Preparing for the ACT Test Booklet, the Test Prep Guide for 2021 or 21-22, which I think they have updated. And you can take the pre-ACT or ACT at your school on a school day if your school is offering it, and that would be free to you. The official ACT prep guide is something that you can buy on Amazon or through ACT. We also have live online classes, live tutoring, and self-paced courses that you can take. Now I'm going to pause myself. I'm going to actually just, I'm going to set this up here, and I'm going to put myself on mute for just a second so I can get my daughter taken care of. I'm going to pause here for 2 minutes. Take a look. So we're going to, thank you. So we're going to take a look at some ways to get prepared for the ACT. And so we have some test taking strategies that will help. And so one of the first and most important things that you can do is prepare as far in advance as you can for the ACT. So finding out whether or not you're ready, what your skills, academic skills are, as early as possible is going to be the most helpful thing. If you want to know what to expect on test day, you can check out this website, and you can take practice tests. I'm going to show you some that you can take. You want to take them in the order that they're shown, so you kind of have some familiarity with what that test is going to be like on test day. And you can time yourself. You can also look at the test day checklist. Make sure you get plenty of rest the night before the test, and also eating a good breakfast has been shown to be helpful in test taking. Okay. Another thing that's really important with the ACT, and until you've gotten a chance to sort of practice it, pacing yourself can really be helpful, and it's something that takes a little bit of work. And so really trying to get a feel for what the test is going to look and feel like, and get yourself a chance to kind of time yourself. It's a really good idea to do one practice run through before going in for the big day. Of course, reading the directions matters. Reading each question carefully matters. Answering the easiest questions first is a good tactic. And then, because you're not going to be penalized for guessing, make sure you answer every question. You can also review your work and make sure if you're taking it on paper versus online, make sure you're marking your responses really clearly and erasing really clearly. So when we put these score sheets in to be scored electronically, if there are any little stray pencil marks, it might think that that was the answer that you were indicating. So maybe you selected D and you went to erase it, and really you meant that you wanted to answer A. Well, if you don't erase that one completely, then it's going to mark that if you have 2 responses for that particular item, it's going to think that you got the item wrong. So just make sure you do a good job erasing if you're taking it on paper. Okay, so we're going to talk about some updates for the ACT. Some things are going to be a little bit different that you might not have seen before. And then some super scores, we're going to practice calculating a super score, and we're going to talk about some other enhancements to the ACT. So my ACT is where you can log in to do things like sign up for a test to find out what the test dates are, but they also have a lot of free test prep and a full free practice test that you can take either timed or untimed and with or without accommodations. So I've actually gone into my ACT and I have created an account for myself and have kind of practiced around and done some stuff in there, which is kind of fun. And so I would encourage you before you sign up to log in, create a free account at my ACT and do some practice. You can find your test center locations there, especially during COVID, where there was a lot of there were some challenges in trying to find. I don't know if anybody had tried to find a test center with some of the closures, but you'll definitely want to check in, see where those locations are to make sure that they are testing due to the pandemic. And you can view and send your score reports there. You can figure out what your super score is on my ACT. You can purchase some of that test prep that I mentioned, and you can complete some of those inventories, the college and career interest inventory. And again, that's going to be through myact.org. So one of the things that we really try to help students do as we prepare them for after high school is discovering what they might like to do, what their interests are, and doing some exploration in some college majors and occupations. Sometimes people ask me, what might I have done differently in high school? And I definitely think I would have spent a little bit more time looking at and exploring some jobs that were out there. So I wanted to be a teacher and I became a teacher, but I didn't really have a strong sense of what the day-to-day like was. And so I really would recommend that people spend some time discovering and exploring some potential occupations, even doing things like going in and talking to some teachers, asking if you wanted to be a teacher, asking, what is that like? What are some of the benefits of that occupation? What has it been like during the pandemic? Some of our interests and some of our jobs that require in-person work have been really impacted. So at ACT, I actually work from my home office, but there are a lot of conferences that got canceled because of COVID. And so you just want to spend some time exploring and looking at what some of those potential careers might be and get a chance to talk or even shadow some of those particular careers. So you can kind of really hone in once you've decided what activities you like or what interests you do like, you can kind of narrow down the ones that you don't. And so doing some of those interest inventories through my ACT can really help you figure out exactly what you might like to do. And then once you know that, figure out what your academic strengths are and how to get yourself shored up if you have any learning gaps. As I mentioned, you can find your super score through my ACT. There's an interactive student report. So you can figure out what your composite score is, which is basically an averaging of all of the scores that you got, except for writing. So the writing is on a different scale. The regular ACT is on a scale of 1 to 36, and the writing is on a scale of 1 to 12. So you can see that this pretend student got a 23 composite, and their math was a 33, which is really good. Their science was low. Their English was even worse, but their reading was good. So this is where you can decide whether or not you want to send your super score. And there's some other things that you can explore, like how do I compare to other students in my state? How do I compare to other students in my nation? Are my scores good enough? And then you can kind of take a look at what your interests are. So we just started offering super scoring last year, and colleges are accepting those. And so we're going to take a look at how to calculate your super score. So I'm going to help orient you to this table here. So this is a student that took the ACT 3 times. They took it in April, They took the English, math, reading, and science in April. Then they did it again in June, all 4 tests, and they did it again in September. So if you take a look at what their composite scores are, they got a 21, a 22, and a 21. And we're going to figure out where did they perform the best on each of those scores. So for English, what month did they score the best in? Well, it looks like June was the best. That was 22. But they did the best on math in September. They got a 23. And in reading, they did the best in April. And for science, it was 22. So when we take a look at what their scores are, we see that their super score, when you take 22 plus 23 plus 23 plus 22 and divide it by 4, you get 23. So that's rounded up. So that's how we calculate super scores. And really what we're just trying to do is make sure that we give you guys, the students, an opportunity to put your best foot forward. You've already demonstrated that you knew the content. We just want you to be able to average those scores so that you can get the best possible. It sure be nice if we could do grades that way too, wouldn't it? Everyone would have a little bit better GPA. But yeah, we really want to give you as many choices as possible so that you can kind of utilize as many opportunities and have as much potential as possible. So we're going to talk a little bit about fee waivers. And oh, I see, did somebody pop into the chat box? Oh, somebody had to leave. Okay, let's see what we have here. Early college, compared to the next grade. Okay, great. Oh, looks like you guys are doing a little introduction. Very nice. Okay, so let's talk about fee waivers. So the fee waivers ACT offers are so students who meet the criteria, and we'll talk about that criteria here in just a moment, can take the ACT for free. If you qualify for a fee waiver, in addition to being able to take the ACT up to 4 times, you will be able to get a free subscription to ACT Online Prep. And that is basically a wonderful kind of intervention test preparation tool that will help you practice the test there are something like 2,000 questions in there for each of the content areas, and really give you a chance to do some practice tests to create a tailored plan for preparing for the ACT. And it's typically, I think, between $100 or $200. And so it comes free with the ACT waivers. You'll also have access to the rapid review, which is live instruction. And ACT Academy is something that we have recently sunsetted, but we have some resources remaining from ACT Academy. And so make sure if you do qualify for a fee waiver that you utilize those. And I can share some information on exactly how to find out if you qualify for those fee waivers a little bit later. Here are the eligibility requirements. I know this is a lot of text, but I just wanted to take a screen capture of this from our website. So these are the eligibility requirements, and you have to meet all of them. So you have to currently be enrolled in high school in either the 11th or 12th grade. So if you're a 10th grader and you're thinking about taking the ACT in the 11th grade, you're going to want to make sure the beginning of that school year, when you're an 11th grader, that you apply for the fee waiver. You have to be testing in the United States. And then you need to meet one or more of these economic need indicators. So either enrolled in a federal free or reduced price lunch program at school, enrolled in a program for economically disadvantaged, so like maybe a Gear Up or Upward Bound. Maybe you are in a foster home or a ward of the state or currently homeless. If your family receives low income public assistance, or if your total income is at or below the levels for free and reduced price lunches. And you can find all of that information out when you get on the myact.org site. So you can go to success.act.org as well. And also I'm going to make this presentation available to Anita. So if you'd like to come back and find some of these links, you are more than welcome to have access to this presentation. It's also, if it feels like a lot of information, then you don't have to take copious notes. You can simply just come back to this presentation. I will save it and send it to her to be disseminated. But also really want to emphasize the importance of practice. Practice, practice, practice. So this is the ACT is going to be an exciting opportunity as you start to plan that trajectory for the rest of your life. You can also talk to your counselor if you have any questions about fee waivers and to find out if you qualify. And your counselors at the schools can help get those fee waivers for you. Okay, so there were some changes. So if you had received a fee waiver before, there are some changes that ACT made just starting since September of 2020. So you used to be able to submit, I think, 20 score reports to schools with a fee waiver, but we have actually changed that to unlimited. So if you utilize a fee waiver and take the test and you get a score that you want to report, and that can be your super score, remember, you can send that to as many colleges as you would like, whether it's from a national test date, or maybe you took the ACT at a school or through your district. So you'll be able to send those to any colleges that you want. And we've upped the waivers from 2 fee waivers to 4. So we're just trying to give as many students as many opportunities as possible. Okay, there are some updates on the test that you might not know about. These just recently came through. The first one is there's going to be some new content in the reading test. And so one passage on the reading test may now be accompanied by a graph, figure, or table. So don't want that to come as a surprise to you. And also all watches, they've gotten way too fancy. All watches have to be removed and placed face up on the desk and left in the room during breaks. So I'm currently wearing a watch that would not be approved. Some people have old analog or old digital watches, but they've just made kind of a sweeping watch policy. All of them have to be removed. So let's talk a little bit more about some of what MyACT has to offer. We talked about that career exploration and planning. And the MyACT platform that's where you're going to indicate which scholarship agencies and which colleges you want your test scores sent to. And you can have those free test prep resources. If we have a few minutes at the end of this presentation, I can do a quick demo on what MyACT looked like. And this is where you're going to register for national testing, or you can use your student code to enter your information if you're testing through your state or district. So the MyACT homepage looks like this. You'll see on the sort of the middle of this slide here, there's a blue bar that says register for the ACT. That's where you're going to sign up, and you can do some free tests that are online. I've drawn a circle around those, and that's where you can start practicing, and it's going to tell you exactly how you did. It's going to tell you what you got correct, what you got incorrect, and I'm going to make some recommendations for how to get yourself in better shape when it comes to these content areas. And so you can track your progress as you take those practice tests, and you can take them as many times as you'd like. So for the math practice test, this particular student didn't get number 1 right. It looks like they skipped it based on what I'm seeing here on this screen. Looks like the correct answer was C, but they didn't indicate the right response. So MyACT is going to create for you some helpful resources to get that question right. So we've got 4 that are shown here. There's actually 10 of them. So you can see that this was for math. So this is on algebra. So it's going to walk you through kind of ratios and unit analysis. You can see some videos. There's also some fun games that can be played, but it's going to help you determine what your score would be based on how you did on those practice tests. And it's going to give you a chance to be able to shore up some of those gaps and make sure that your academic skills are in tip-top shape. And if not, it's going to give you lots and lots of practice to be able to do that. This is a really long URL, and I can put this in the chat box, but you can also just go to Google or a browser and type in act.org test prep free. And these are the resources that are going to come up. First is the test prep guide for 21-22. So maybe you're thinking about where you want to go to college. Maybe you're starting to look at what careers you might be interested in. This guide is really intended to help you understand everything about the ACT. It's going to talk about some test dates, those fee waivers, and that free test prep that you might need. So you can just download this. It's a PDF guide that can be made available to you immediately. When you get to that URL that I indicated, or when you type into Google act.org free test prep, this is a screen capture from the website. So if you scroll down, you're going to see first there's the free ACT official online practice test. So even if you don't go in and create a free account with myact.org, you can get a free online practice test. So it's for all 4 subject areas. It's going to help you know exactly what you got wrong and what you didn't. And you can access some resources to help you improve those skills. And again, you can take it as many times as you want. There is also a practice test and study guide that's made available in English and in Spanish, which includes a full-length practice test, and that does include a writing prompt. And you can get an overview of what to expect on test day and some general test taking strategies. So these are all free. You can just click online and get these in an instant. This is another screen capture from the website. So if I had scrolled down on the website to just another page, there are some free online test prep events that you can click on and some free ACT prep sample classes. So for math, English, reading, and science, you can find out a little bit more on how to prepare for those and see some content in there. So that can be really helpful as well. If you want more ACT test prep, you can click on this link here and it's going to direct you to some additional resources that you might have. So I mentioned the preparing for the ACT test booklet. Now, you can get this yourself. In some cases, schools can order these. These are totally free. We don't charge for any shipping or handling or anything like that, no taxes or anything. And inside this document, again, we make them available in English and Spanish. It's going to really kind of walk you through exactly what to expect on that test day. And it's going to give you an opportunity to, remember I mentioned pacing yourself was really important, and pacing yourself takes a little practice. So you can sit down with your timer. You can wear your smartwatch for that. And you can take this practice test in one sitting. The way that this test is designed, it's going to have the order of the content areas all ready for you. So it's going to come to you exactly as it would through the regular ACT. And you can just see how you do. All of the answers will be made available to you. And so this is a great opportunity, if you don't have other resources as well, to sit down and do a sample test. Once you have taken the test, you can take a look at this free guide, which is called Using Your ACT Results. So basically it's going to say, okay, you got your score, so now what? It's going to help you understand exactly what that score means. Remember, the real goal here is not to get a perfect 36 on the ACT. That's the best score possible. The real goal is to make sure you're meeting that benchmark or that target so that you are demonstrating that you're on track to be successful that first year in college. So we don't want to have students feel the anxiety or pressure of needing to get what's, I'm air quoting right now, a perfect score on the ACT. We really just want to make sure you get that benchmark, and you want to get into a value that will be likely to help you get admitted into college for colleges that are requiring the ACT. So for a lot of state universities, it's it's typically about a 22 or 23 on most of those content areas. But if you want to know for sure exactly what your ACT requirements are for the college you're attending, make sure you check out the website for that particular school. You can also learn about how to report your scores to college and the benefit of reporting your scores to colleges. And it'll kind of give you some recommendations on whether or not your score should be submitted, or maybe if you should take the test again. That this guide is going to really kind of help you determine what your next steps are, especially as you start planning your education and careers. So that is something that you can find through this free guide. It's also made available in both English and in Spanish. And then one of the other resources that I want to share with you is called My Options. And so My Options, oh, I just saw something pop. Oh, that's okay, Misty. It looks like you lost connection. No problem. So My Options is allowing students to go in and look at this particular support network for you to manage your benchmarks, explore your progress, take a look at some career exploration. There are student guides that will help empower you to kind of take ownership of your planning process, look at some of those discovery tools, look at some college and scholarship matching that's available. Nothing here is cost-based. All of this is free. And really is just going to give you an opportunity. Your teachers and counselors can also utilize this free resource to see exactly how your progress is going and whether or not you need more help, and also an opportunity for you to do that career exploration. So you can go to myoptions.org and check that out. We talk a lot about college and career readiness. And I just want to say that I know that that probably feels like there's a lot of pressure to go to college. But at ACT, our goal is just to help you be successful after you leave high school. And not every person, not every student wants to or should go to college. Of course, that's a goal for many, and it's a wonderful goal. It was a goal of mine, but we know that not every student is going to go that direction. And so when we talk about success after high school, we want that to be both college and career. And whether or not you go to college isn't the point. The real point is that you're prepared for career readiness, because everybody is planning for careers. Some are planning to go to college in order to do that, but some won't. Some students obviously will go right out of high school and go into a trade or into a trade school, but they might not be going to a 2-year or 4-year college. So we just want to give you the opportunity to explore as much as you can now while you have a chance to impact what happens before graduating from high school and getting yourself best positioned to be as successful after high school as possible. And as a reminder, that's our goal at ACT, is to try to help you be successful, help your student, if you're a parent, help your students be successful after they graduate from high school. If you have any questions, if you really want to dive in deeply to what your score means or how to improve your score, the first thing that you're going to want to take a look at is the standards. So we call these the college and career readiness standards. And these are broken up by specific score range determined by what the standards are. So let's say we're taking a look at a little sliver of the math college and career readiness standards. And the benchmark for math is 22. Remember, that's the goal or the target that we're aiming for. So if you got a 22 in math, this is a tool that can help you figure out exactly what you need to know in order to get that score, or what you need to know in order to do better. So if you didn't do as well on this test, and let's say maybe you got a 14 on the math, but you really want to get a 19, or maybe you really want to get, your goal is to get to that benchmark. These are the specific things that you need to know and be able to do in order to get that score. So this kind of takes the guesswork out of what do I need to know in order to get a particular score on the ACT, or what do I need to know in general in order to take the ACT and do well. So you'll see there are some specific examples for number and quantity in math. So being able to understand absolute value in terms of distance, being able to add two matrices that have whole number entries. So some of these things are you can explore before you even go in to take the test, or after you take the test, you can say, okay, this was the score that I got. Sounds like these are the things that I need to know and do in order to improve that score. And of course, you can find the college and career readiness standards on the website, our website. You can Google search it, or you can utilize this URL that's at the bottom of this slide here. ACT is on all the social medias. If you're looking for some question a day practice, if you're looking to see what updates are happening, you can find ACT on Facebook and Twitter and all of the Instagram, Snapchat. No, I don't think we're on Snapchat, but we have a lot of social media presence. And so you can check in with us, see what we're up to, get some extra help, share some of your successes through that social media platform. Okay, so we've got about, it looks like we've got about 10 or so minutes before concluding this presentation. And I would love to pause here for a minute. You can ask me anything you want to ask about the ACT. I would be more than happy to answer those questions. You can take yourself off of mute and just start talking, or you can enter in a question that you have in a chat box. What I'm going to do as soon as I get out of this presentation is take you to our website to show you what the remaining test dates are for the ACT if you're planning on taking it either this winter or in the spring. So what questions can I help answer for you?
I had a question, Jessica. Earlier in the presentation, you mentioned on the fee waiver, if you qualify for reduced or free lunch, what happens if you're at a school that's like an entire free lunch school? Does that mean that
Yes.
everyone at that school may be eligible?
Yep, exactly. Yep. Thank you for that clarification. All right, we've got 9 other people on this presentation. I know somebody has one question. Don't leave me hanging out here. Ask me a question about the ACT. There's no such thing as a stupid question. I had a teacher tell me that when I was a child, and I still say that to this day. So surely there's got to be a question I can help answer for you.
I'll ask another one since no one is typing up, but since we do have, I did notice that we have at least one other middle school student in our chat. At what age would you and I don't know if you had covered it, and so I apologize if I had missed the grade or the age, but I'm assuming you can take it anytime during high school, but when would you suggest the optimal, or maybe that's when you're going to get into the dates possibly?
Yeah, so students can start preparing for the ACT as early as age 13. So, and there are some schools that are offering the pre-ACT, which is the practice test for their students. So if you're an 8th grader, you can take the pre-ACT, or a 9th grader, 10th, 11th, even in the 12th grade. But if you're younger than 13, then we have basically a problem with consent for our myact.org. And so you wouldn't be able to create a free account unless you were 13 years or older. So for our middle school student, can you share with us your age? Are you out there, middle school student?
I don't know if they're piping up, but I mean, I guess we can just assume maybe middle school is maybe around 12, like 11, 12.
12.
So
11, 12. So yeah, so you can go online and see some of those practice items, but as far as creating a MyACT account, you do have to be 13 years old. Okay, so I'm going to go out to the I'm going to go to the website to show you where to go. And let's see here. We'll go ahead and, can you still see my screen, Anita?
Yes, we can see your desktop. Now it's going to a Google. Yes, we're going.
Okay,
we're
perfect.
going.
Okay. So I'm just actually, I'll go to act.org. That's a good place to start. Okay, so this is our website, and you're going to see here that the next, we always at the top of this website, we always show what the next date is for the next test. And so you can take the ACT on February 12th. That's the next one. Oh, I got a question. Yay. Thank you, Annabelle. So let me answer this question and then I'll get back to the website. Okay, so Annabelle asked, how do we know if our school does a paper test or an online test? And is there an option to choose between the two? That's a great question. So what you're going to want to do when you register on My ACT to take the test, you're going to indicate whether your preference is online or paper. And what it's going to do is when you match yourself with the test center, pretty much in most instances, you can take both either paper or online at any test center location. But what you're going to want to do is when you're completing that preference, when you go to myact.org, you're going to want to indicate which one you want, and then it's going to check to see if your test center is offering that. If it doesn't give you that clarification, it'd be a good idea to check with your school, maybe your school counselor, or maybe whoever the test coordinator is, just to make sure. But for the most part, all of our test centers offer it on paper or online. You're just going to indicate which preference you have when you sign up for the test. Thank you for asking that question. You're very welcome. Okay, so you can see that there's some test information, there's some college planning, there's some test center updates and score or more. Now, if I scroll down here, you'll see there's some test prep that's available. There's some recorded sessions on a journey from high school to college and career. You have lots of options, and so many of these things are free and available to you through our website. So I'm going to click on ACT test information. I'm going to go ahead and click there. And so you can even, look here, it says you can get an email or a text if you want to sign up for an alert so you don't miss the deadline for registering. This is going to give you some information about what you're going to need for registration. So here at about midway through here is the ACT Test Center location. You can see there are retesting information, calculator policy. Maybe you have a question about what type of calculator you can bring. And here are the remaining test dates. So we've got the September, October, and December have come and gone. I mean, the December one obviously hasn't been taken yet, but the registration deadline for that was November 19th. So that opportunity has since gone. But you can take the test on February 12th, April 2nd, June 11th, and July 16th. This doesn't apply to you guys because you're in New Mexico, but there are no test center dates that are scheduled in New York for July, just in case you intend to be there. And so these are the dates that you have. You're going to want to notice the regular registration deadline and the late registration deadline. Those there are additional fees for that if you're going to register late. So these are the last dates that are left for 21-21 and 2021 and 21-22 school year. So if you have any questions, maybe something pops up in an hour or a day or a month, I'm going to share my contact information with Anita as well. And you can feel free to reach out to me anytime. I would be happy to share any of those free resources or email you any of those PDF guides. But basically, we just want to wish you the best of luck. We know that these last couple of years have been really hard on students. We just want to encourage you to say that you're doing a fantastic job. And there's a lot of support and a lot of resources and a lot of people that really want to help you be successful in and out of high school. And so reach out to those around you in your school and or to those of us at ACT and let us know if there's some way that we can help you. If there aren't any other questions, I want to thank you for your time here today. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to stay on the line. Otherwise, good luck to you. Hang in there. You can do it. And all of that encouragement. We know this isn't easy. We know this has been really hard. And we just want to say you're doing a good job, and hang in there. Hope something popped up in the chat. Oh, make sure you do the survey, your attendance survey, to ensure that I think you might be getting some type of credit for participating, and then maybe you get entered into a raffle to win a prize.
Yes, that is correct. Please just make sure I put it in just a couple of times. It's the same link. Before you leave, make sure you complete the survey and you hit submit. So thank you all for coming to our ACT session today. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording.